So professional that we are. Thanks, Matt Cheesemo. Anyway,
I
thanks
mean, we've
everybody.
run that thing for like 4 weeks now. Do we need to thank him anymore?
I feel it's appropriate, to make sure that we are calling out how helpful the YouTuber has been to us. So yeah, I'm gonna keep saying. Welcome to the episode 61. Yeah, I did to look down and just double check the number of the Ascendant Art podcast. Hopefully, we're gonna have a good time tonight. We're gonna go over some nice, fun things. I went and saw Ant-Man Quantumania yesterday, mainly to test out my movie pass, my new card that I got to make sure it actually worked, so that I could get my money's worth out of that whole thing before it goes back under. And so I've got a full review available for that. We're going to talk about Mama Susan calling it quits on YouTube, saying "peace out, bitches," and deciding to move on into the sunset. Hasbro has officially started reporting numbers, and it's not good, and it's only going to get worse. So a nice full show, and probably throw some streaming ratings in there towards the end as well. So how are you doing, Slender?
I'm doing well, as you can see by the subhead under my name. There's a lot of wind here today.
We do, because Slender's not does not live super far from me. We are in an area that does get a lot of wind gusting, and so, and also because of the regional location, has to have a lot of overhead lines to deliver power and other utilities. So it can be an interesting mix with all the wind that we get. So if he suddenly disappears off the image, off the screen, it's probably because the wind has knocked a cable out in, what is it called? Best Virginia over there? Is that what you guys
West
describe?
Virginia.
Yeah, or West by God, Virginia, or whatever you want. So what do you think? Should we start? I think with Ant Man. Should we go right into Mama Susan? Which topic would be the fun one you think to start with?
um, well, I haven't seen Ant-Man yet, but I've heard a lot of different takes on it. Uh, I was a panelist on the Mad Dump last night, and Bad Take Bojang came in, and she said it was amazing. She loved it. So I'll be
That
curious
was
to get your response, because everybody else that I've talked to says it's either terrible or meh.
it is the most mid movie I might have ever seen. Meaning, it's it's like an exact 5-6 for me. And if I was scaling on a top on like a 10-point scale, and I mean, I don't know, because there's stuff in it that I liked a lot. There's stuff in it that I found pretty terrible, but I don't hate it the way some people have started hating it, and I don't love it at all. I actually was a really big fan of the first Ant-Man movie. I thought it was a fun, good time, and I especially like that they worked a heist movie kind of element into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a good change of pace. I thought the dynamic of especially the end fight, which was on a Thomas the tank engine like train table, was a real excellent use of the whole size changing aspect of the hero.
Right.
But so with Quantum Mania, it's do you know how a lot of people felt about Iron Man 2? I don't know if you remember at the time, there was a lot of criticism that Iron Man 2 was just really a movie to try to get to the next movies, that it had, the Marvel movies had blown up so much that they expanded their plans. They were going to go full on Avengers, and so Iron Man 2 was the movie that they were using to try to real quick add a whole bunch of Easter eggs to set up Captain America, Thor, Incredible Hulk, like Black Widow, just be able to get their entire roster ready to go by the time Avengers goes, to like speed run them into existing.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like Quantum Mania seems to be suffering from that a little bit, where Kang especially should be a character that they let breathe, that they take their time with. I liked what they did, how with Thanos it took a long time where he was just kind of a background threat, and then he briefly kind of appeared, and it kind of like more, as it went along, the threat of Thanos increased until he finally had the reveal in Infinity War, and he was just like he was the kind of overarching villain that could take out the entire Avengers and do it with style. Kang should be that same level of threat. He's a time traveler. He's in the comic books. He's one of the all-time Avengers villains, and they speed run him in this movie, start to finish. I guess. Do we want to go full spoilers? I guess. I mean, or should I stick?
Spoiler alert! Spoiler
Spoiler.
alert! Spoiler
All right.
alert!
Spoiler alert. Spoilers included. They're doing the standard Marvel thing where he's a one and done villain, except they get to kind of have their cake and eat it too because of the multiverse now, where there's Kang variants in the thousands. So when they get rid of one, there's always more, which is kind of a cop out. And it's one of my biggest problems with multiverse storylines. It gives
They lose all the stakes.
Exactly. And this movie was written by one of the guys from Rick and Morty. And I have enjoyed Rick and Morty as a show. It made me laugh several times, especially some episodes are really good. But that Rick and Morty shouldn't be the kind of writers you get to do a Marvel movie. Because you can see where the bad elements of a Rick and Morty show come into play. With the quantum realm, there's this whole like under society living within the quantum realm that makes no sense. The logistics don't make any sense at all. Like there's different, species, populations. They all can breathe. Like when Ant-Man, Wasp, and Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, they're all down there and they're just able to open their mask and breathe air. So apparently the quantum realm has just got an oxygenated atmosphere, which makes no sense.
I was gonna say I don't think that works.
Yeah, there's a couple things that are very hard to make work because previously you were told that like in the quantum realm there was you have to, I guess it makes sense because the original Wasp, who was Michelle Pfeiffer, Janet Van Dyne, was supposed to be down there 30 years, so she would have had to be able to breathe. So I guess they kind of already established that with the second Ant-Man where they said she was still alive. Here's my other. All right, so have you seen the second Ant-Man movie?
Yeah.
All right. So you remember in the lead up to Infinity War, I mean, like after Infinity War, when Ant-Man 2 came out, at the end of Ant-Man 2 is when the snap happened and everybody disappeared while Scott was stuck in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Okay, so Scott was supposedly stuck in the quantum realm for 5 years, but for him it just felt like a couple minutes, and that's fine. What is my issue here is in this plot, Janet Van Dyne, Michelle Pfeiffer, supposedly was so traumatized by being down there, and that the fact that there was a Kang the Conqueror down there in the quantum realm, that she goes like completely nuts when they start doing an experiment at the beginning of this movie involving the quantum realm. But at the end of the second Ant-Man movie, she was right there with everybody as they were doing that experiment, sending Scott Lang into the quantum realm. That's a pretty big jump in character.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little thing. Sometimes I think that the writers of the Marvel movies don't pay as much attention to the continuing story as we do as fans, and it shows. I mean, that what's interesting though is the Scott's role in that, where he comes back, and that whole thing was to set him up to be the savior for Avengers Endgame, where he comes out and they can develop time travel because of the quantum realm work that he had done. How do you forget that then the very next Ant-Man movie and make Janet Van Dyne like deathly afraid and paralyzed of them doing anything with the quantum realm? Seems like a pretty big disconnect.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I will say Michelle Pfeiffer still looks pretty good for her age.
if there's one thing you can definitely always credit to Marvel, it's that they are completely incapable of keeping their characters consistent.
That's true, but Ant-Man has actually been one of the more consistent ones, which
Ant-Man
was yeah,
has. The character Ant-Man has.
hmm exactly, and that's and they to a certain degree he's still pretty good here. I think there's a lot to like in his storyline with his daughter, where he's trying to be a positive. He's a positive male father figure. He is the father to her, and you don't get that a lot of times. There's a lot of there's actually parts where he teaches her how to do things well, and she follows his advice to be able to do the things later. Because spoiler alert again, Cassie Lang also uses Ant-Man slash Giant Man suits to be able to transform, which works in because in the comics she eventually becomes a superhero whose code name is Stature, because she becomes, instead of Giant Woman, they go with Stature. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, whatever. It's they have to find new names for him. So I guess Mountain Lady was already trademarked.
Yeah, Mount Lady is awesome.
Which is basically what Cassie Lang is in the comic books.
Yeah.
Mount Lady. Well, because they're trying to speedrun creating the Young Avengers. A Kang variant is supposed to be one of the Young Avengers, which it's a younger Kang who comes back as Iron Lad, basically wearing a version of an Iron Man suit that's actually a Kang suit. But he's trying to avoid his future, so he's trying to be a hero.
Yeah.
It's a
And
fun storyline. Kang's a super interesting character.
yeah, but and this is half the problem. Like Marvel has been like listless ever since Endgame. Like Endgame was very like the Infinity War, Endgame, all that, like very carefully plotted out. Everything was working toward that goal, toward that finale, so to speak. Like Phase 4 fell flat on its face. Phase 5, if this is the kickoff to Phase 5, and you're saying they're speed running toward things already, it's like, guys, take a step back and with the rate at which these studios are pumping out movies, they need to start approaching it more like a series. Like stop approaching these as movies and write this out as a series. Have that long arc that is supposed to span your entire season, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's you, and the early Marvel movies kind of learned that lesson to take a breath.
Yeah.
After Iron Man 2, they got a lot of criticism, and they realized, look, we can do standalone movies that build the characters up in their own right, take their time. The first Ant-Man movie had one cameo with Falcon, and it was really well done. It was funny, and they moved on. They didn't try to like push him into things.
No.
And then they got him in this Civil War, which was also another nice touch, because it was, I think Civil War is a great movie. And the character moments in Civil War are what you really want to do in the Marvel. Because look, Black Panthers had great character moments with his father dying, and then him trying to take revenge on Zemo. You had Ant-Man making the choice to help Steve Rogers because he was a fanboy, and you're like, why wouldn't he want to help Captain America? You had the dynamic with Falcon and Bucky being rivals, both being Cap's friends from different eras. That's the how you kind of do a movie with a lot of characters going on.
Yeah.
Everybody managed to still have their time. I think it does show you the value of the Russo brothers to Marvel. They did Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. I mean, the Russo brothers have been responsible for basically the best Marvel
All the
movies they've
biggest
made.
and
Yeah.
best. Yeah.
I think Winter Soldier is still probably my favorite Marvel
I
movie.
really enjoyed Winter Soldier, but honestly, Civil War was really good. I really liked Civil War.
Well, the best thing about Civil War, and it's just it was inspired by the comic book, and it was a condensed version of it, and it was a very different kind of storyline versus what it did in the comic for the registration. But what it did do right was you could see both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You could absolutely understand why Iron Man was like, we need to get Bucky and put him in jail. He killed my parents. He's killed people for 60 years. He's a bad guy. He's a weapon. And you could understand where Steve was coming from. Like, I knew Bucky before. He was my best friend. He's going to be my friend till the end of the line. I promised him he only was in the Russians' hands for experimentation because I couldn't hold on when we were on the train in World War II. And I thought he was dead. Now I have an obligation to help my friend. He's not a bad person. You see both angles so well, you can understand how it ripped him apart.
Hey, just because he bad guy doesn't mean he bad guy.
Doing the Zangief, yeah. Oh, speaking of sequels where they screwed things up, Wreck-It Ralph was great, and Ralph Breaks the Internet was terrible.
Oh yeah. That one was a premium example of how not to do it.
Yeah, so like I said, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, completely mid. It's like a 5-6. The MODOK
The
stuff is
audience score
terrible.
is high though.
Yeah, because it's not like, remember on Rotten Tomatoes, you either say whether it was bad or whether it was good. And remember, mid reviews are considered good. So, like, my review would probably be considered a positive one under Rotten Tomatoes rules.
Okay.
So,
They do that fuzzy math, huh?
yeah, remember, it only has to be like a 6 out of 10 to be positive.
Gotcha.
I
That makes
mean,
more sense.
yeah, so let's look. Let's see. Visuals were peak. Okay, no, the sorry, ad blocker. The visuals were not peak. It did not have a lot of action. It had action, but not like here we go. This one right here, not great Marvel movie, pretty boring. That's about right. Look right there. It's 2.5 out of 5 stars. That's basically right. That's where I'd be. Um, I think as normie fodder goes, this is the kind of movie that will be perfectly palatable and completely forgotten within a week for people who just wanted to go out and like go to a movie.
Okay.
But I can tell you that the special effects were not great. Um, let me, I'm going to look up one of the characters because I got to get an image because MODOK. Okay, open image, new tab. All right, I'm gonna switch over because I don't know. Do you know what MODOK is as a character?
Something only to kill, right?
Yeah, mechanical organism designed only to kill. And do, 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 do. This is the effect that they used for that. Not
Oh
good.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's bad.
Yeah. MODOK is not a good not a good effect. It's not good.
Yeah, not off to a strong start.
No. And so that's why I say, anybody who tells you the effects are great, not so much. Now, some of the shrinking effects, here's the other, like, you don't get the fun shrinking effects. Like in the first Ant-Man movie, you remember when he shrunk down, like some of the effects was seeing the world giant around you. They don't bother doing that anymore. Instead, you see him little running around on the ground and then jumping up and hitting people, which you saw a little bit of in some of the other movies, but when he shrunk, the focus was kind of like him working within the tiny environment, which has gone away. I think that's to save some money because it doesn't, you know, I don't know why they wouldn't want to do that. That's half the fun of the Ant-Man, hero concept.
Yeah.
But MODOK doesn't work cinematically. I don't think people know how to use MODOK, and it just doesn't work. Nope. So there is an
It looks
interesting
ridiculous.
there is an interesting callback for the character, which is, you remember the first Ant-Man movie and the villain he fought at the end, the yellow jacket? It followed the standard Marvel formula where in the first movie you fight the evil version of the hero.
Right.
Which has been true in Iron Man. It was true kind of in Thor when he fought Loki. Captain America, he was fighting the Red Skull, which was an evil version of him. Ant-Man, he was fighting an evil version of him. It's like, it's pretty. I mean, Black Widow gets her solo movie. She's fighting evil versions of herself. Marvel's got a formula. It's pretty clear at this point. Anyway, so MODOK turns out to be the what's his name? Basically Yellow Jacket.
Okay.
So you remember at the end of that one, that's when Scott broke his suit and shrunk him into non-existence.
Yeah.
And so it turns out that he got shrunk all the way down into the quantum realm where Kang found him. And this is how his body was, where his arms had shrunk more than his head, and he was deformed. And so they built the suit, or this MODOK suit, around him, which
this is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, that is not how in the comics Hydra built MODOK from the ground up to be a weapon. Which is why I think some things just don't translate outside of comic books. I am not such a blinders wearing comic book guy that I can't acknowledge that there's just some stuff that you can't really translate that works in comics. It's like when you watched some of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in Cowboy Bebop that will work in an anime that just doesn't translate at all to live action. And for instance, there's a specific character I'm thinking of that was at the end of the season from Cowboy Bebop. You know who I'm talking about?
Oh, you're talking about Ed? Yeah.
Yeah, Ed.
Radical Edward.
Anime, you can pull it off in anime.
For live action, but what they did not work.
Yeah, so MODOK, if you wanted to do a MODOK in live action, you should actually go more along the lines of probably, just like a Terminator style machine, and abandon the giant face with little arms and little legs.
Yeah, there's ways to do it. They didn't find the ways.
No, this is one of the times where trying to stay accurate to the comic book just sucks and is stupid.
Yes. Poor decision.
It is a poor decision.
Whatever. I guess he had some funny moments or something like that.
They try to use him as a source of humor. I mean, because honestly, look, if you're going to put a character that looks like that on screen,
but the only thing you can do with him is make jokes.
Yes. He's just not going to work as a straight character. You got to just got to go lean into the humor, I guess. It didn't work. It was a failure. Not so good. So that, of all the things in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania that just stood out as terrible choices, this is the most terrible choice, is the MODOK character. So,
yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah. So I would say, like I said, it's a mid movie. If you need to go see something this week in the theater for for me to use Movie Pass to make sure it worked, which it did. It worked exactly like it was supposed to. I checked it on the app. When you have to do it once you're in the movie theater, like within the geographic zone of the theater, and then you took the little debit card that they sent you in the mail, and you pick, basically on the app, you pick which time you're going to see the movie. They load the dollars for that ticket onto your card, and then you buy the ticket in the theater, and it worked exactly like it was supposed to, which is good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So for $10 a month, I was like, the ticket itself yesterday would have cost $12 on its own, so I'm already plus $2. And if I go see one other movie this month, which I can, because out of that one was a 15 credit movie, I had 34 credits a month. So matinee is only 10. A weekend primetime movie is 20, and a primetime weeknight movie is 15. So I've got basically enough to go see another matinee or another weekday evening movie within the month. So I get two movies I could be plus as much as $14 over my cost.
Very
So
nice.
yeah, so I still don't understand the economics of it. I guess there must be enough people signed up who don't go see movies to kind of cover the costs. It's almost like insurance in that way, where insurance companies count on collecting enough premium dollars to cover the costs of the people who have accidents. Hopefully, you have enough people who don't have accidents who are paying money. It doesn't make sense to me, Slender. It's $10 a month, and I could see in theory up to 3 movies that cost like $10 each. So I could be pulling out $30 a month and only putting in 10. It was the economics of it just don't make sense. Which is why I sign up for monthly on Movie Pass. Never do an annual plan with Movie Pass.
Because it might
Always
not be around for the whole year.
exactly. The first time Movie Pass was around, they like a couple months into it being out. This was like when they launched. They were letting you see a movie a day and
Damn.
it was like $15 a month then. So if you went and saw 2 movies a month, you were good. If you went and saw a movie a day, it was just like, forget about it.
You were fleecing them.
Yeah. So they introduced an annual plan where it was like a 20% discount on your normal monthly cost. And I had some friends who were like, "Oh, that sounds like a great deal." And I was like, "No, it's bullshit. Don't do it." Because if when this goes under, and it's gonna go under, if you've paid the annual plan, you're gonna lose money. I was like, me on a monthly, I can make sure that I've always covered my monthly input. And worst case scenario, I'd be out like $15.
Yeah.
So, just don't do it.
Instead of being
And
out like $70.
yeah, and shockingly, within a month and a half after that, it was like, oh, they declared bankruptcy. We're out. I was like, I knew it was coming. But I was one of the people who took it down because I was like, every movie that was coming out, no matter how stupid it was, I was like, it's free. It's like, I'm going to go see it. And
It
I was seeing,
costs me nothing.
it cost me nothing. I've already paid my monthly. I'm going to go see this random, like, stupid movie that's come out. Yeah, why not? I saw one where David Tennant was like some kidnapping serial killer dude movie, and it was terrible. But I was like, it's free. That was, I think, the last movie I saw on Movie Pass. I want to, you know what? I want to look up what the name of that was because it was weird. It was when David Tennant had stopped being Doctor Who, and I think he was trying to shed the image of being Doctor Who.
Okay.
So he was like, it's sometimes how like the Disney girls. That's when he also did Jessica Jones, where he played the Purple Man, Kilgrave,
Okay.
which was awesome. That was a fantastic first season with him as the villain. It was the Where is the name of that movie? This is the really fun thing that when we're doing stuff live and I'm just like, let me look for the name of that movie that came out. It was so bad. Everybody should know about it.
I mean, take MODOK or whatever the hell he is off the screen already.
Yeah, is that starting to bother
looking
you?
at his fucking face.
Wasn't that bad? And those are terrible effects too. Someone compared it to Spy Kids. Do you remember? I don't know if your kids watched it.
Dude, don't compare that to Spy Kids. Spy Kids was fun.
But you know that what I'm talking about with the character in Spy Kids, right?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Like the CG wasn't great in that either. And yes, there was that one character.
It was
I would never put Spy Kids up against. Yeah, that guy. I would never put Spy Kids up against Marvel, though. I don't consider them to be in the same league. Marvel got to do better.
That's what I think. Somebody made like a shot like comparing images. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's see. Because all right, because somebody, yeah, here we go. This is gonna be funny. You think that Spy Kids, you don't want to be in that same category as Spy Kids, but look, the costumes aren't far off. Look, between Ant-Man and the Wasp, look the color. Cassie, his daughter, has a purple suit, which looks like the purple suit from Spy Kids.
Yeah, I think the main goal of Ant-Man, from what I've heard, is just to push more women in STEM.
Yeah, that's true because Paul Rudd's the only character who's not a scientist in it.
Which is weird because I thought for comic book lore, he was a scientist.
He was a thief.
Oh, he was? I thought he helped invent the whole fucking suit.
No, Hank Pym invented the suit.
Oh, okay. Oh,
and
Scott Lang. This is why I am not our comic book expert.
Yeah, well, they had to switch to Scott Lang because Hank Pym had a lot of his comic book history where he had a very problematic relationship with Janet Van Dyne as the original Wasp, including, Yetiing her a few times.
I remember that was part of the lore.
Yeah, so they switched to Scott Lang as their Ant-Man. So that also, again, it opened up a heist movie. Remember, Edgar Wright was going to do the first Ant-Man movie. And so he was interested in doing like a heist movie with an Ant-Man, special effects kind of skill set. I still really wish speaking of the multiverse, I could see the multiverse version where Edgar Wright got to make the first Ant-Man movie. It probably would have been fantastic. Edgar Wright's awesome. He's very underrated. I mean, it's hard to say he's underrated when he's such a celebrated director, but his movies are great.
Yeah,
Hot Fuzz is probably the most intricately well put together movie from a story standpoint I've ever seen.
I mean, he made it for the greater good.
The greater good. Like everything is set up and pays off. Set up, pay off. Set up,
we
pay.
Will be up to our elbows in carnies and hoodies and crusty jugglers.
I love this.
It was a fantastic one. Like, you can't. I would struggle to find fault with that movie.
No, there is.
And you know me, I can find fault with anything.
Let's see. Which studio owns Hot Fuzz? Let's see. Oh, this is my favorite clip. All right, we're gonna try it. Why not?
We're gonna get ourselves in trouble.
Are you sure? You think?
2-minute 38-second clip. What is this? A trailer?
No, this is here we go. Just the when he's talking to the old guy.
Yeah.
This
Where
is,
they
I
were
love.
setting up the Chekhov's landmine.
Yeah,
All right. Mr. Webley, I trust you have a license for that firearm.
Does for this one.
He does for this one.
What do you mean by this one?
just and living in West Virginia, you know, there's like a whole bunch of old guys who have sheds like this.
Oh yeah. I think some of them are my neighbors.
And I'm stopping it real quick, but that music is like the 90s, 80s, 90s, like action movie music.
Oh yeah. Classic.
And because that's in the background, I'm going to mute it as we play. As he, you know, all the shotguns, rifles. And it's great because this is what he uses to arm all the cops later in the movie, too. And he says, by the power of Grayskull, which is hilarious.
Yep. I mean, they
And
did
the
everything
scene.
right with this movie. Like this was back when they still knew how to tell a story through the medium of cinema. A lot of people have seemingly forgotten how to do that. It's just about, oh, what's going to look cool? Like there's more to a story than like the visual. You still need the core tenets of storytelling.
You know what's crazy? Look at the year from Hot Fuzz. It was 2007. It's not that long ago. It's what,
No. But that was like
16 years?
the peak, right? Like the early aughts. The aughts were kind of the peak. Everything started to kind of like we started heading toward the valley in the teens. You know?
I'm going to say something that's going to annoy some of my, you know, fanboy friends. I think one of the things that did in movies was comic book movies and franchising of movies. Like in around 2008 is when Iron Man came out and kind of changed the game with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But people forget that's also the year Dark Knight comes out. It's weird. It's hard to, you know, it's weird to, you know, that they both came out the same year, but they did. And that's when Warner Brothers decided like Batman could make $1 billion and Iron Man could just be printing money and the MCU was born. And when the studios really decided that the only things that they really wanted to invest time, effort, and money into were comic book movies and franchises, it opened the door to screw movies up. And what I mean is they took their eye off the ball on all the other movies that are in development. And they also let people infiltrate the franchise. Like once you have all this stuff going on with franchises, those are very sensitive to having infiltration where only a couple decision makers can change an entire, you know, plan, so to speak, on how things are going to go.
You mean ruin an entire plan?
You could get like Kathleen Kennedy in, and next thing you know, that $4 billion, the $4 billion you spent to make Disney appeal to boys is being thrown out the window. So
yeah, wasn't that the whole reason they wanted LucasArts in the first place?
yes, it was because they said we own the market for girls, Disney princesses, and all our animation. Disney had failed several times on trying to do something that would appeal to boys. Most recently, before the Lucasfilm stuff, they had done like Treasure Planet and Atlantis, both good movies, but just didn't work financially.
Yeah, just not quite there.
So Bob Iger's philosophy as a chief executive had always been and has always been buy it. Like whatever Disney is missing, we're going to buy it to fix it. You know, instead of addressing storytelling issues with Disney animation, we're going to buy Pixar. That was the first thing he did. So that was good. He got Pixar, good for him. Then he turns around and then he buys Marvel because instead of, again, addressing what is the root cause of us not being able to make things that appeal to boys, we're going to buy Marvel. And over the years we have it, we're going to start screwing it up so it doesn't appeal to boys. And then we buy Lucasfilm so we can get Star Wars. And then in a few years, within a few years, screw it up so it doesn't appeal to boys. I'm seeing a theme in
the
Bob
worst thing
Iger's.
is you've ruined everything that did appeal to boys. Now there's nothing for boys. Great job, idiots.
Yep.
And I mean, I guess I could try to say that in a nicer way, but no. Great job, idiots. Like,
was it in Spaceballs?
You fucked it up. You fucked it up.
Then you've got movies like Hot Fuzz, which I watch pretty much, I would say, once every season, every 3-4 months, because it just makes me laugh. Swan, and between was it in addition to the leads, I think who is it? Timothy Dalton just has such a good time playing the villainous grocery store owner. I'm a slasher. What? A slasher of prices. It's like, and you can see he knew the script was so well written that he could just be campy like that and have a good time.
Well, and like I said, they've kind of lost that art. It's just we're gonna make kick-ass set pieces and things are gonna look real cool. And like the great example of last year was the colossal failure of Rings of Power. Like, yeah, anybody who looks at Rings of Power will be like, wow, I mean, it looks fucking awesome. But then you get to the story and the dialogue and everything else, and like there's no congruency. The everything is just it's like you dumped out 18 different puzzles, all the pieces on top of each other, and then you made a picture with whatever, like these pieces don't go together, not even a little.
Nope. And that's a good place to transition to another thing. Speaking of pieces that aren't going to go together, where do you think? Let's see. I'm sure you'll know which one it is. Sure. Because there's a certain company that makes pieces for board games and for toys and all sorts of stuff. And they're not having a good time, and those pieces aren't coming together very good either, because Hasbro just announced that they had weaker than expected fourth quarter. But bear in mind, again, this is a toy company, and the fourth quarter is October, November, December.
Yeah,
and that means
the Christmas rush did not help their numbers at all.
And they were down 17% on revenue.
You know what makes me laugh the most about this whole thing is, though? They're still trying to say they're doing good. Like they're still trying to put that song and dance on for their shareholders, I guess. But like,
well, in addition to the bad fourth quarter, they issued guidance, because when you're a publicly traded company, you actually have to tell people what to expect. And so their guidance is, their forecast for 2023 is down. So they've said that for 2023, they're going to only earn $4.45 to $4.55 versus the expectation of $4.88, which, just to give,
pretty significant difference.
That's a 10% decline in their projected revenue on the high end. Like the difference between 445 and 488. And if they give you that low end, be prepared, for that to go lower. So they're projecting at least a 10% decline between, for the year.
Well,
And that's before, that's before they lit their cash cow on fire with Wizards of the Coast.
yeah, we won't see those numbers until Q1 earnings reports for this year, and they say They said that the loss of subscribers to 1D&D will have a negligible effect, but I
Bullshit.
think they're full of shit.
Bullshit. That we've talked about it before, that the Wizards of the Coast and D&D and Magic is the cash cow for profit in Hasbro.
Well, I mean, yeah, Wizards of the Coast in general is the cash cow for profit right now, and like, okay, yeah, they lost some subscribers off of 1D&D, but from the leaks and everything, from what I've read, they lost thousands of subscribers from 1D&D. They're basing their entire projection on the fact that, and again, this is the glory of using surveys and statistics, but apparently most of the people surveyed said that they would be highly willing to come back to 1D&D if Wizards of the Coast did all the shit that Wizards of the Coast did. And I'm like, they ain't fucking coming back. Most of them are not coming back. You surveyed a small cross section of people that actually bothered to take your fucking survey. You're not getting most of those subscribers back, probably ever.
Yeah, and the other thing is, what's going to happen in addition to the other stuff is they are banking on this thing making money. Lots and lots of money.
I don't think it's gonna.
No, I think it's gonna bomb so terrible.
I mean, I'm gonna see it, but like the trailer,
I'm gonna use Movie Pass for it.
Yeah, even looking at the trailer, I'm like, ooh, not looking good. Not looking good.
I mean, at this point, I feel like I see these things for our podcast. Like yesterday when I went and saw Ant-Man, I was like, all right, I'm gonna check my Movie Pass to make sure it works, and I'm gonna have seen Ant-Man so that we're not behind the times with what people want to talk about.
Yeah, but like to quote a good friend of the show who provided us with that highly professional intro, you better buckle in, kittens, because this shit's going down.
I mean, it's cuckoo bananas.
It's cuckoo bananas.
It's cuckoo bananas. It is not staying Gucci.
No.
I mean, let me see. Does
It's not staying savory, and it can't even be delicious.
Like, look at this movie. The graphics do not. And Michelle Rodriguez, right?
Well, if you have to have the scene where the woman kicks everybody's ass and the guy just sits there and is completely useless. It's that whole scene, and I'm like, I mean, I could literally go to Netflix or Disney or anywhere else, go to their action movie catalog. I guarantee I'll find that scene. I don't need to watch D&D for that scene. Hollywood's favorite thing to do now is make a guy look like an idiot while a girl does all the work.
So she's throwing the brick around. She picks up, and now I'm going to grant that somehow, because it's Dungeons and Dragons, that maybe she's got some kind of extra power boost. She's from a race. Oh, never mind. You can't have race benefits anymore. She's, going to have, some reason where she just picks up, like right here. She's straight up like Andre the Giant body slamming this guy.
And here's the thing. Maybe she's a barbarian or whatever. I'm okay with her doing that. But I'm not okay with her somehow breaking free, no problem, and him doing fuck all for the whole scene. Like,
yep.
That's the part that's been bugging me. Like,
and the costumes.
I have definitely seen all the female characters in this this D&D adventuring party doing kick-ass amazing shit. All I've seen the male characters do is fuck things up. Because you've got that scene with him where he can't even, escape from his bonds, despite being a rogue who should probably have some extra capabilities to do so.
Like, shouldn't his character class be actually more capable of doing that than the barbarian?
Well, the barbarian could theoretically break it with strength. He could theoretically you know, maybe use sleight of hand or like something like there's ways. There's ways in the rule books that you could do it. But that's what you see him do, is be completely ineffectual. And then what do we see in another clip in this trailer later on down the road? Oh yeah, you see the male wizard fuck up and set off the pressure plate that makes the bridge collapse right after being told not to do that.
Let's see. All right, we've got. Oh, so this right here is
I mean,
what
I'm
I
glad
like.
they're doing the Red Wizards of Thay. I'm a huge fan of the lore behind the Red Wizards of
Well,
Thay.
can I just say that this is 100% like, let's take advantage of what people liked from Stranger Things? Because this
No,
is
you're talking Vecna. Vecna is not part of that. This
the
what you're
character
seeing
design
here,
looks exactly the same.
well, that's because it's a lich. I will explain to you the history of the country of Thay. Thay was a country of extremely powerful wizards, right? They had all the different schools of magic, and that was kind of how the hierarchy
Wait,
was broken
they
out.
had it? Not
Yeah.
them? Were they them?
No. All the people in Thay. The wizards were the most. They were the highest caste in
So
the country.
all they and them. It's a pronoun country?
No, Thay is the name of the country. The people in the country are they. It's not a pronoun country. You're just being ridiculous now. Stop trying to derail me. But anyway, what happens
So spell the
is
name of the country.
Thay.
They.
Thay.
They.
You're mixing Thay and they. They, the people of Thay.
Them, they, from Thay.
Oh boy. But anyway, Thay is a country that fell to civil war because all the different schools of magic kind of started, like, the necromancers basically made a play to take over the kingdom and succeeded. So now pretty much the people who run the country are all undead. Like, it is an undead country.
So Ainz Al Ghul is running a country.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah.
All right, so we've got.
And I really like the lore because that lore also gives rise to the Brotherhood of the Griffin, which would have been a great story to include to build a Dungeons and Dragons movie off of. The Brotherhood of the Griffin were actually Griffin Rider soldiers who served Thay, but then got caught up in the Civil War on the losing side and kind of fled the country and became a mercenary group. So super badass.
As long as one of them doesn't have something happen during an eclipse, we'll be okay. That's another anime reference for people. So this looks like, so these are the Red Wizards being evil, taking things over.
I mean, it depends on when this is set. Like, this may just be the Red Wizards have owned the country for a while now, you know? And I think they were all the Red Wizards even before. Thay is a weird country.
So I think the costuming is cheap. I mean, it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look great. And honestly, like, you've got that guy holding a tiny little rope. He's wearing full armor, it looks like, and you had him drop backwards like that. Yeah, he's gonna die. He's not gonna be able to hold on to that rope.
Like, all right, so this axe that she's wielding just looks stupid.
It looks, yeah, that
It looks like it's carved out of foam and spray painted.
Yeah.
And what do you want to bet that it is carved out of foam and spray painted?
Yeah. Maybe ask your props department to step up their game a bit.
Yeah. We could invest a little bit into it. The stone dragon gargoyle thing, looks.
No, I'm not even gonna go. I'm gonna say that also doesn't look very good.
Yep.
Like, what this looks like is a really well-made B movie, but it's not.
So what I'm gonna, as a point of comparison, so we'll watch this one through. This movie is from 2023. as we're watching this one, I'm going to queue up something else. Have that one ready to go. I mean, the logo is classic. I mean, they actually got that right. Oh, here's your favorite part.
Yeah. Well, like I said, all we really get to do is see guys fucking shit up and being detrimental to the party.
You know, so here's something to ask. You're a D&D guy. If you're going down,
very much a D&D guy.
If you're going down into some terrible evil dungeon, would you bring your little loot?
If I was a bard, fuck yeah.
Is there like some magic skills you can pull off with the loot?
Yes, bards actually channel their magic through their song. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. All right, so we're going to stop
What I would
sharing.
say is if you have a rogue or a bard or a thief of some kind, you'd probably have them, looking for traps. That might be a thing that they'd want to do.
So this was from the year 2000, and let's just see visually if it looks on par.
From the year 2000.
Because right now I'm seeing this, and to me, these landscapes and effects look about the same, if not maybe, maybe a little better. But the costumes look equal or sometimes better.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is half the problem when you try to literally do everything with a green screen. Like,
yeah,
it loses you lose that feeling of immersion, so to speak.
Got Jeremy Irons in there with some dragons.
It's not real. No matter how good it looks, part of your brain knows it's not real.
All right, so that CG was a little weak right there. That was some weak CG. The makeup effects there, some of the the CG with the fire is a little bad there.
Here's
but
the thing.
That's pretty good. The costumes are pretty good.
I mean, this hangs with the new D&D movie, and this is 20 years ago.
Angry Dwarf, you actually have an elf. There's, getting some magic going on. Clearly, we've got, I know this is sometimes people are very happy when they see this kind of armor in place.
Yeah, it's just weird looking.
It does look a little pointed. But the costuming here is like I said, okay, so the guy's armor in the back looks cheesy. That clearly looks like it's plastic stuff that they've molded and painted. So that could be bad. But the robes for the wizards are actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
So the armor, the villain armor is the weakest part here for me. The rest of the costumes and the set design seem pretty good. That CG's bad. Okay, so these costumes are bad.
It's bad. It's just bad.
What I'm trying to say is in 23 years with a real commitment, the Dungeons and Dragon movie is probably going to be on the same scale. And that's one that they, made with Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez and are trying to like really do stuff. Look at that. Jeremy Irons acting, controlling those dragons.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's great, but it's not really looking like it looks slightly dated as per compared, but
you know how it's all right, there's how you can tell it's slightly dated.
America Online.
Yeah. AOL keyword D&D, internet keyword D&D. Like, oh Yeah, you're people who don't understand. You used to go America Online used to be like a whole different browsing experience. It's
Yeah. And that
terrible.
doesn't mean it was a good browsing experience, but it was a whole different browsing experience.
So I think what we've proven pretty definitively with legit evidence is that in
Evidence?
23 years with a new budget to try to do it, the D&D has not really gone past being a Sci-Fi Channel original movie.
Yeah, we're no closer to getting a good D&D movie.
You know, which is sad. D&D could be a good source material for it. You know, funny enough, I actually thought the Warcraft movie wasn't bad. I know a lot of people kind of
It's
slept
alright.
on that one.
I thought
It's
it
a
was alright.
solid. It's like a 7.5. It's above mid.
I'd say it's a 7.
Well, it's the
And
lead
I'm being
actor.
generous with that. But like, I mean, it wasn't bad.
I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Warcraft seems brilliant. So it's like a 7.5.
I mean, I'll give you that.
If that one's like a 5-6 exactly mid, this one's like 7.5. So that's where I mean I think the effects had some weak parts, but some of the orc makeup driven ones were pretty good.
Yeah. Oh,
And
visually it was on point. Like,
and
it
when he
looked
was
really
riding
good.
that Griffin, it was pretty good.
Yeah, like visually, I have no complaints. I thought it was very well done, very well executed in the visual respects.
I believe I've been told that it actually followed the story lore of the Warcraft games really pretty good.
I can't
Which
remember. Maybe.
maybe, yeah, I don't
I
know.
only got really into the Warcraft lore for Wrath of the Lich King.
Well, speaking of rulers who aren't around anymore, nice transition. Mama Susan is stepping away from YouTube.
Ding dong, the witch is dead. Oh, I don't want to get a copyright strike. Never mind.
Well, if you sing it, is it still a problem?
You can still get got, yes.
Mama Susan's gonna get us got with her gat.
But I mean, we discussed this a little on the Mad Dump yesterday as well, and I mean, there's more to it, but I think the ultimate takeaway with this story is Susan Wojiki says she's stepping down, and nothing of value was lost, and nothing's probably going to change. Like, yeah, this new guy is taking her place, but I mean, she probably appointed him for a reason, like she probably had some say in who took over the mantle, and he probably has a lot of the same ideas and thoughts. And I don't think suddenly, like within the next month or two, YouTube's suddenly going to become this wonderful place.
People forget that YouTube is a sub company of Alphabet, which is Google.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason your accounts with Google integrate with YouTube that way and all that. And Google is the one still deciding the way things are going to go.
And I mean, apparently Mama Susan is now taking an advisory role at Google. So
exactly. So I think
she could be fucking it up even more. Who knows?
Yeah, it is what it is. She was doing what Alphabet wanted, but it was also probably what she wanted. So I don't know.
We'll see what happens, but odds are nothing's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I don't think anything is going to change at all. If anything, whatever, I think the plans to keep pushing shorts is going to be, I mean, shorts are exactly
They're what the people
what
want.
I mean, they want to take on TikTok. That's like their thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't think anybody should actually be watching this news and be getting excited like anything is changing. So
Agreed.
I'm glad we on the same page with that. It's not like our small piddling YouTube channel is going to be. Well, I don't know. They've taken out people for lesser things and spitefulness. Maybe we'll end up being on the chopping block. I'm
Sweet.
still. We managed to get away with our Clout Goblin short. It ended up like spiking in views again, like the day after it got flatlined.
I did it.
Yeah, it went up. It's over 700 now.
Well, like I said, I'm actually happy it happened. It made me feel like I was big time because it seemed like we were being throttled on that video.
I think we clearly were, and then Miss Clout Goblin decided to do silly things the next day that drove traffic again. And it was right in time for us to be unthrottled a little bit.
Just in time.
Just in time. So yeah. The takeaway here, Susan's gone. Mama Susan's gone, but nothing's really gonna change. It's a lot like what we warned people with Dungeons and Dragons and their OGL. Like it might be changing temporarily, but it's gonna be what they wanted it to be. YouTube might be switching the CEO, but it's still an Alphabet Google company, and it's going to run the way they want it to be.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not YouTube the way it used to be, and it never will be again. I think people need to understand that. You can choose to work within the parameters that YouTube's doing while also building out alternatives, but don't get an expectation that somehow YouTube is going to change its policies to be the way it used to be. What I would say probably prior to 2016, because 2016 is when it really shifted completely.
Yeah.
I don't know what else happened that year at all, but
Well, as they say in the royalties, right? YouTube is dead. Long live the YouTube.
There we go. All right.
Like that's basically what happened. An era has ended. The current era of YouTube has ended. Will the new era be any different? We don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm not putting my money on anything changing.
I think we can finish with our normal fun time, which is we've got our streaming ratings. This is covering the week of January 16th through 22nd. As you can see, the new hotness that made it into the list is That 90s Show, which we talked about.
I didn't think it was bad. I kind of liked it.
Let's be honest. The reason that it wasn't bad is because Red was on there, and he makes things funny.
Well, yeah, Red and Kitty were on point, and honestly, my take on it for the first season, because I've seen the whole first season, is that in fact the old cast really carried the new cast. Some of the new cast members kind of started to come into their own toward the end of the season, but we'd have to see another season to get a good read on whether or not this show's gonna, keep having legs.
So there is one thing that I find very interesting in this top 10 list, and that's the number 10, which is Criminal Minds. Does something stand out to you, Slender, looking at that entry?
Criminal Minds?
Yep.
Various.
That's because it gets licensed to multiple streaming services. So it's not just on one. And I'm going to be honest and say that in the near term, we're going to start seeing more shows like this, because in order to get money, they're going to be they're going to be licensing their content out. Let's see. We've got 90s show reminded me of a Disney show from 2007. Slender, you watched it. Does that seem to fit to you?
I mean, in 2007, I was 27, so I didn't watch a whole lot of Disney.
2007. That would have been like, did you ever watch like Good Luck Charlie?
No.
Something like that. I've seen a lot of that because that's what my wife liked watching when she was pregnant. For some reason, it was like soothing to her. So under the original programming, it's pretty much the one National Treasure cracked barely the top 10 after it had all their episodes out. So on the plus side, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan is still holding in there. That's been there for a few weeks that we've looked at. We got Vikings.
Good.
Yeah. No, so that list is basically exactly the same, except for the difference of having that 90 show in there. And then, of course, Ginny and Georgia, which I think you mentioned your daughters were blackmailed into watching by Netflix. Daughter, one of them.
Yeah, one of my daughters said she was watching it because it wouldn't stop recommending it to her, and it kept coming up at the end of all the other shows. And like, she's like, I'm just watching it so that it'll stop asking me to watch it.
And then we've got our acquired top 10, which is just where you're going to see all the old content. What's interesting is that, like before, everything for HBO Max that airs on HBO first, like as an HBO original, is technically acquired content. So that's why House of the Dragon used to show up on this list. And it's why Last of Us shows up on it now. Which is good. Last of Us is almost able to compete with Coco Melon. So good for them.
I know a lot of people said that the first couple of episodes of Last of Us live action were good, but
well, I know where it's going. Big Abby Pump is gonna wreck house, and Neil Druckmann is saying he's committed to follow that story. So I'm not really, feeling like I need to stick around to see what's going to happen there. Why get emotionally invested to that when just why? It doesn't make sense to me. Because we know that the 5 iron's coming out of the bag, and Joel's is going to get beat with it. So.
Dude, spoilers.
No, I don't care. Like I need to get people out of it before they get committed.
Yeah, before you really start to like Joel and be like, man, Joel is a really good. Nope.
Because we got to use Joel to make you see the other side, man, to see how you're doing. What you do is just evil from a different perspective. What you think is righteous is like, oh, F you, Neil Druckmann. You know what? I'm going to go buy Ghost of Tsushima instead and play that.
Ghost of Tsushima was fun.
Yep.
They tried to go after that one for being cultural appropriation or something.
Except in Japan, people loved it.
Yeah, they were like, this is fucking awesome. Great job, guys.
Exactly. Like, way to be respectful of our culture.
Yeah. Weird how that works, right?
I mean, Japan likes when people respect their culture and, like it. What Japan won't do is let you move there. So
yeah. I mean, you can live there, but you probably never going to be a citizen.
Yeah, you can come teach our kids English for a barely living wage, senpai, but in exchange for trying to learn Japanese on your side, and so you can watch anime without subtitles. And to realize how much localization people F with the translations.
Yeah, you know why Japan doesn't want a whole bunch of immigration into their country? Because they have money. They don't need a whole bunch of immigration into their country.
I mean, I've watched Gate. I see what happens when Japan is worried about immigration.
Well, and then on top of that, like they're a very small country, all in all. It would very quickly destroy their culture even faster than like massive immigration into a country our size,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame them for wanting to preserve their culture. They have a rich culture. Like, that's cool. Still like to live there, but I don't need to be considered a citizen. That's cool.
No, I think you'd be go ahead and go there. It will say Japan, Tokyo Disney, #1 Disney you'll ever be able to go to. If you actually enjoyed what Disney used to be, they still have Splash Mountain, and they're not changing it. When the Disney people told, basically said, "Hey, we want to redo all of our Splash Mountains into this Tiana ride," like Tokyo Disney said, "That's nice. F off." Where the people here like it.
They
They
love
like
Splash Mountain. It's one of their favorites.
exactly. So they said, "F you. We're keeping it the way we want it. You can go to hell."
Speaking of which, interesting thing I heard just before we continue on with the ratings, because something I forgot about. But in addition to the massive backfire that was an attempt to boycott Hogwarts Legacy, right? And I don't know if this is true, but I heard it on Literature Devil's thing this morning, and I have no reason not to believe it's true. But I guess in every other country, the trans character, the one who's supposed to be like who's got a man's voice but looks like a woman,
is voiced by a woman.
Is voiced by a woman. It's just a regular chick.
I was thinking that because it's kind of an easy cheat to do that now with so when you're making a movie, they use what they used to call were cheat scenes where like for instance like in Star Wars where they had that where they're like, oh, it's a same-sex kiss, like they're showing that it was such a quick scene that like just in background that it was easy when they sent it to another country, they just cut it out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't exist, and Disney would do that. And so with
Disney
games,
did that with the new Star Wars.
yeah. So with video games, when that clip came out and they showed oh, it's a trans character, I was like, mother effers. I bet in my head I was like, I bet in other places, it's being dubbed by a female, voice actor, and it's just a female character.
Yeah.
Because it's it's one of those things like, oh, you design a female character with maybe slightly less feminine features here or there, but still a female generally, so that everywhere else you'll just accept it.
Dude, apparently on Nexus Mods, which is like one of the biggest modding sites, right? There was already a mod to fix that character's voice so that it used the female voice instead. And it got shut. Like that mod is no longer being distributed. It got shut down super fast, probably because everybody was downloading it. But apparently, it's hateful and bigoted to not want a weird, jarring situation like that to happen in your game.
Yeah, I mean, of all the stuff to get like antsy about people modding, I feel like that's such BS.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because there are some far more disturbing mods, you could say.
I mean, there always
Skyrim. Oh boy, you could do things with Skyrim.
There's there's stuff they did Fallout mods. You remember those that they would do?
I didn't play a whole lot of Fallout.
Oh, there were some mods there too. So
Fallout 3 kind of lost me.
And then there were GTA. I remember GTA mods on the PC versions. That was pretty good. Although with GTA, the big deal was that they actually found the mini game that got blocked. That they took out, but the programmers are lazy, so they just basically masked the code and just didn't make it available. And the PC hackers found it and just turned it back on, and there was a mini game for relations.
That's actually incredibly common. Sometimes it's easier to just lock the code than to try and remove it because it's so tied up with other stuff.
Yep, that I remember that happened with a lot of games. I used to play Destiny, and they would find like whole rooms and things that they thought were part of, dungeons, and you're just like, we're just turning it off. We're just gonna,
If you remember, Pentium got all pissed off about that because they used firmware locks to just disable some of the cores on their Pentium 8 processors or whatever. Like they were all 8-core processors, but they were still selling quad-core processors. And they were just 8-core processors with half the cores disabled. Then somebody found the firmware, and you could buy the quad-core processor much cheaper.
And then just enable it all the cores.
Yeah, just unlock the firmware yourself, and they got all pissed about that. And I'm like, well, you're the assholes who were, doing that in the first place. Like, I don't know what to tell you there.
Yeah, it's they do that stuff where they lock it down and then they end up taking you to court. You remember, was it Nintendo when they used to make developers have to buy the cartridges from Nintendo to be able to play on the original like Nintendo Entertainment System? And then, do you remember those the black cartridges that you would get? Like, did you ever see those, the Nintendo cartridges that weren't like the standard gray, but that were actually black and usually, like had a different like kind of rounded edge? That was because those were the knockoff companies that had finally like backwards, engineered how to make cartridges that worked on Nintendo.
Yeah.
And so they started making games cheaper because they're like, hey, because Nintendo would charge a licensing fee for the cartridges. So the games developers had to build that into the cost of their games. So then they're like, hey, you can make RBI baseball on this one, and we won't charge you as much for the cartridge. So that game cost went down, and Nintendo got pissed and like took them to court, and they ended up losing because like hey, it's a consumer thing. You can't. The consumers bought the game system. You can't keep them from using cartridges that work on it. And Nintendo got so pissed off about that.
Well,
so
Nintendo gets real pissed off about a lot of things.
So I think that's when for Super Nintendo, that's when they built in that special chip where it wouldn't work if it didn't have the chip in it. It was like a next gen. It was like every time they would try to keep like putting next level encryption in. And it's funny because they're still doing that shit to this day until they figured out they could put the games online and make you pay a subscription.
Yeah, it's it's that never-ending fight against piracy and that which the companies perceive to be piracy, sometimes in error.
Yep. Piracy's you're never going to stop it, man. The way to actually stop piracy, and I've talked about it before, is to make something cost effective for the consumer.
Yeah, if it's not ridiculous expensive, people will buy it.
Like if you don't want pirate, like I was in the store and I was seeing like the new movies that were coming out. These are now movies that are on a streaming service right now, and they're still selling the Blu-rays and 4K discs for like $25-$30.
Yeah.
Like, nope, these things need to be priced between $5 and $10. Because if you still want to move units on that, that's what you need. You just need to understand the price. It's like music. You remember like when CDs you remember when we were in school and CDs were like $25 for a new CD and it would have like 8 songs on it?
Yeah.
And then you got Napster and all this other stuff, and you're like, mother effers, you can fit like 20 songs on a CD.
Mm-hmm. But that's what always happens. Like, oh, we don't want to make things more cost effective, so we're just going to try and screw you over. It always works out really well for them.
Xbox has a better family plan than Nintendo. Nintendo's online service is shit. It is not good. It needs to be better. Like they've got a great classic library with Super Nintendo, N64. I think they just put GoldenEye out, which was a great move. Even though people will now finally see that GoldenEye wasn't that great a game. It was just a good game at that moment.
I was going to say, it was great for its time.
it doesn't hold up, but whatever. I'm gonna get
Credit where
crucified
it's
for
due,
saying
though.
that.
It was great for its time.
But yeah, but the
It's not great anymore.
Nintendo has like invested nothing in their online service.
No. Their online service is weak as fuck. Like, it's terrible.
It's I don't even know, like, and the way you like the gaming IDs they use are like these ridiculous friend codes, which are so long, and it's just, it's not like with Xbox and PlayStation, you're like, hey, what's my gamer tag, and you just look it up.
Yeah, I actually agree with Jason on that one. The fact that they want me to pay for a family plan, but buy multiple copies just to play with my kids is insane.
Yeah,
Totally
that's
agree. It's what I
because
love about my Xbox. Like,
Yeah.
all the Xboxes, like I have my Xbox, and then my wife has her Xbox. They're linked. Everything that I buy on my Xbox, anybody in the house can play on her Xbox as well. And we can play the damn game together without having to buy a copy for everyone in the house.
Yeah, and that's, I know, like on PlayStation they do that as well, like where it can be shared with like the family account on the same system.
Mm-hmm.
Or all my PlayStations have access to my library. Like I don't have to pay for it again.
Yeah, but and I don't know if PlayStation does this because I haven't played. I really only play like single player games on the PlayStation, but there is that possibility though. If you go and try to play it on one, it'll stop whoever's playing it on the other. I've seen that happen with some. But the family plans and honestly, man, if any of the companies could figure out how to do a family plan that's worth a shit, they could dominate the market because Steam, their family plan is jacked up. The Xbox family plan ain't perfect because really it's limited to 2 Xboxes. I mean, I have 4 in my house. No, 3 in my house. So that third Xbox just can't do anything. It's just whoever's on it, whatever games they own, they can play, but you can't share to that third Xbox. I don't know what PlayStation does because, like I said, I really only get the PlayStation game for those single player exclusives that I can't play anywhere else.
That's the bread and butter for PlayStation. That's what's kept them on brand forever.
What, the exclusives?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really the only thing they've got going for them at this point.
I'll be honest, I feel out of this generation though, I've had the most fun with the Switch. Just because it's I've got an 8-year-old and that's why, because the games, it's just he enjoys playing those games more.
I mean, I pretty much spent $400 just so I could play Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I don't feel like I wasted my money.
No, it's a good game.
And there's a lot of other really fun games on there too. Like there's nothing that has been like earth-shattering for me as far as like the next big RPG or really crazy story. But there's a lot of just games that are fun to play.
No, and which is funny because they're putting out. Have you seen the ad for the Tetris show that they're making?
Oh, the Tetris, is it a show or a movie?
Movie, with the Taron Egerton.
Yeah, it's on Apple or something, but it looks really fun. Like I kind of really want to see it.
I have Apple. It came with my wife's phone service, so you can come over. We'll watch it.
Yeah, definitely, because it looks pretty freaking good, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't think we should play that trailer though.
No, I wouldn't.
We'll get in all kinds of trouble trying to play that trailer.
No, yeah, that it's got copyrighted music. It's got everything that we could just get hammered
Everything
on.
we could get in trouble for. But if you haven't seen the trailer for Tetris looks pretty good. You know what else looks pretty good is John Wick Chapter 4.
John Wick Chapter 4 does look good. That's again getting to be using my movie pass for that one. I'm gonna get my $10 a month worth. That's now that movies are actually coming out.
There's a few good ones in the wings, but honestly, like I think we've covered all of them.
Yeah, we have.
It's slim pickings, but we're not completely devoid of good shit. Apparently, I have been seeing like Critical Drinker and a couple others are saying like season 3 of Picard is shaping up to be way better than seasons 1 and 2. So might check that out at some point. But that is a big might.
I'm going to catch flack for this one. I went back. Not Discovery and not, I haven't tried Strange New Worlds, but I did watch on Paramount Plus Lower Decks. And I'm going to be honest, I found it to be pretty funny. It was that one is very much basically a Next Generation and original series with some Deep Space Nine too, like lore heavy joke show. And it works. It's funny. It's animated. It's goofy. It's a little over the top, but whatever. Did you watch Next Generation, right?
Yeah.
All right. So they did a really funny bit where they were on a planet, and they
let me preface this. I have watched Next Generation. I'm not a very big Star Trek fan, so.
All right, never mind. I was about to say how they made such a hilarious deep cut joke.
Yeah, but like if you're going into deep cuts, like I do not know shit about the lore or the deeper stuff because I don't dislike Star Trek, but like I'm not a fan. I'm not against it. I've enjoyed some of it, but I don't remember a lot of it because it's not that interesting to me. Not bad.
No, but it's funny. Like if you were a Star Trek, like actually like a deep Star Trek fan from before, that show is actually pretty funny. I enjoyed it. But I've heard, the Star Trek Picard thing is intriguing me because on the one hand, I've seen, like somebody like Doomcock who's out there who's like never, ever. But on the other, I trust Critical Drinker and there's another, I'm going to pull up his name because it's Dave Cullen, right?
Yeah.
He is also, he's been very hard on the stuff that was bad and has actually said that the Star Trek Picard, and he's seen the whole series, was good.
Well, and that's the thing, and I do have to agree with Critical Drinker on what he was saying about this recently. Like if they make good shit, like yeah, we should support that because if we're just like, no, I'm done. I'm never watching their shit again. Fuck them. Okay, well then they're gonna make shit forever and ever. Like if you want to, like we have to train them through Pavlovian response, Yep. Like if they do something good, we should reward them. We should give them a treat. If they do something bad, we will not. We can then slowly facilitate in them a Pavlovian response where they make good fucking shows. But if we don't, then they'll just keep making crap.
And that's one of the reasons. Remember, I think when No Way Home came out, and I said it was a good movie, and I enjoyed that movie. I want them to make more movies like that. So we've got and I'm glad that one made like almost $2 billion. I'm glad Top Gun Maverick made like 1.5. For the most part, I'm going to even say that Avatar, I haven't watched it, but the new Avatar has seemed not so terrible. It's the normal and just environmental story that they've been putting in movies since the 80s. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
didn't
it,
think that the first Avatar was all that great. I was like, wow, they really fucking hate the military. Cool. It like visually, yes, the first Avatar was amazing visually. But most
yeah,
movies are that way now. So what the fuck do I care about a new Avatar?
I know it's been said before, but the best description for the old Avatar was Dances with Smurfs. It was Dances with Wolves with blue people. That was the
Yeah.
exact plot. Like you've got the soldier who's disgruntled, who goes native, which is Dances with Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ends up being a freedom fighter for the people, right?
Yeah, it
In
was
this
not
case,
nearly as impressive as like it must have been the hype or something, but like I expected that movie to change my fucking life after what people were saying about it. And I was like, I mean,
do you
it's
remember the
okay.
articles where like people were having depression because they couldn't live on Pandora? I
Yeah.
remember there were people like, I can't, I'm so sad because I want to live there and I can't. It's like,
I mean, they
oh
pulled the same shit with Wakanda.
yeah.
Like, dude, these places don't exist. Grow up. Get a fucking job.
No, like I'm 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 genuinely concerned from a history standpoint that within 10 years people will think Wakanda was a real
A place that
legitimate
really
African.
existed.
I mean, honestly, Wakanda, Zamunda, whichever well-run, superly, nice, democratic yet totalitarian African country. That's interesting because, like, the method of choosing leadership in Wakanda seems pretty
They have a
non-democratic.
death battle.
A death battle among the male members of the royal families. Like, well, tribal leaders, the Panther tribe, the gorilla tribes, whatever, the tribes are. That's not exactly using the consent of the governed through a Republican or Democratic elected. Republican not to mean the political party, but Republican as a
No, but
system
it's
of
cool because they all know
government.
that that's the best way to do things, and they love their leaders, so it's okay.
As a person who may have a degree in it, that is political science, I can tell you, yes,
You have a degree in
100%.
poli sci. Ugh,
Oh yeah, I know, isn't it terrible? It's
I thought
hanging
I
above
liked
my head,
you.
hanging above my head right now. The the most efficient form of government, if it ever, whenever it actually happens, is the benevolent dictatorship. That's where people will
It's
be
the
the
easiest way to
happiest.
get things done.
You know, when Augustus Caesar was running Rome, people were happy, and for the most part, compared to the other ones, when you have an effective king who is benevolent and actually governs efficiently, people will end up generally happier than even under democratic leadership for a short term. But historically speaking, you don't have lasting, consistent government that way. Because guess what happens once the benevolent dictator is replaced? It all goes to shit. Because the next generations tend not to be very good at it, or they tend to not be benevolent. You go right from Augustus to Tiberius and Caligula, and that's a terrible, terrible thing. Then you get a Claudius to try to clean things up, and then you go back to Nero. It's not going to work. Rome's a good example of that. And then you got English kings doing the same thing. You might get a good king who can start to reform things and get stuff moving efficiently, and then they're deposed and moved on, and you get King Charles who gets kicked out. So,
Hmm.
eh. but but in theory, it works. It's like Anakin Skywalker said in Attack of the Clones, which no one ever pays attention to because people hate that movie. But people should be made to do things, and then it'll work much easier. You sound like you're supporting a dictatorship. Well, yeah, maybe. Yes. I bet the Emperor made the trains run on time. That's a reference to Benito Mussolini, kids. Look him up if they haven't erased him from history.
That is a deep cut.
Yeah, I mean, he was around too. Fascism was in several countries all at once. So, and one of them got to stay in there because people forget that Spain was run by a fascist after World War II, and we let him stay in so that the communists couldn't take over. With Franco. More history. That's what people love this podcast for. Deep political science discussions about. I'm going to sound like what's his name from the PlayStation podcast, Colin Moriarty, who is super entertaining. I like his stuff. I'm glad that he was able to bounce back really well from getting moved on from kind of funny games. Maybe we'll talk about that whole debacle one day. And how those guys have failed and he's done well. So good for him. Oh, I think we've covered a lot of topics today. I don't, on getting sucked into political science, I think I need to stop now. So
yeah, you're gonna lose me.
I'm gonna lose my co-host. All right. Well, it's been a fun time. I'm really glad that everybody hopefully had a good time too. Slender has got a lot of wind going on, but managed to not get his connection cut while we were doing the show. So that's great. Good stuff there.
Yeah, I keep looking out at those lines, and I'm like, oh man, I hope none of those branches fall.
Oh, your biggest worry should be a squirrel chewing on that line.
Nah, the squirrels here are well trained. They will not chew on the line.
Yeah, a 22 can take care of that problem too.
Yeah.
Put a suppressor on the 22 and no one will ever know that you're making the squirrels go away.
Dude, no one would care.
That's
true. There are people around my house that shoot all the time.
That's true. I think as long as you're on your property, I can shoot.
Yeah.
That's living in West by God, Virginia. Best Virginia, as they say over there. I still vote for regular Virginia proper, so to speak. So, on that note, anything you want to share with anybody before we go?
Nah, I think I'm good. I covered all my topics.
All right. You can also catch Slender regularly now on the Mad Dump talking about things. I know eventually you guys are going to get back to the mayor. Was it the
Mayor of Kingstown?
Mayor of Kingstown doing your reviews there.
Which, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. I'm going back through season 1, watching episodes 3 and 4. I mean, every episode is good. Definitely not for kids. This is a grown-up show, but it's a really good one.
It's a spiritual successor to The Wire, is what I've been told.
It has a lot of that feel to it, yeah.
In the way that it's very kind of depressingly realistic with good characters.
Yeah. But it's not,
all right.
I don't know, it's not too, I mean, it is pretty depressing, but it's not, it's pretty depressing. Like, it's
Who are we kidding? It's depressing.
Yeah. And I usually don't go in for that kind of thing, but this one's good. It gets its hooks in you real quick.
Nice. There you go. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for coming out. We'll see you guys next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.